Hi, I'm Rod Gilley. Welcome to Relax and Chat. Today, our guest is Nikki Davenport. In addition to being a writer, Nikki is a founding member of the Fictionary community. If you are a writer who takes the craft seriously, you should check out this awesome, free, worldwide online community of writers and editors. There's a link down in the description. Kick back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hi, Nikki. How you doing today?
I'm doing all right, Rod. How are you today?
Oh, just fine. For the few in the audience who may not know much about you yet, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Nikki Davenport, and I write steamy contemporary romance. And I got started when I actually was in cancer treatment. I've been writing since I was a child, but I put it away for a while. I didn't feel very confident in it. And then when I was in chemo, I had an idea that came back to me that I had sort of tinkered with a little while ago.
Mhm.
And then I was writing almost compulsively. And then it started to take some shape instead of just like a random scene or a random bit of dialogue. There was a story that was actually coming together. And I worked on it every time I was in chemo. So I had that to focus on instead of what was happening with the fight for my life.
Oh,
So then I decided after I kicked cancer's butt that there was nothing that I couldn't do. And I said, I'm not going to put anything off for someday ever again, that this was the time to just live for the now, take the best parts of yourself and what came out of that fight for my life of being really forged and feel a little bit stronger. Well, a lot stronger. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this and get it out there. So I did. And next thing you know, started taking it much more seriously than I had, just sort of puttering around with it. And like I said, I got connected with Fictionary, with a writer community, and was able to get some real support for the process. And next thing I knew, with some hard work and some time and some polishing, I had a finished product. So I said, I'm ready to get this out there to the world.
ah, fantastic. Yeah, it's one thing we have in common. We're both founding members of the Fictionary community, and it
Yes,
is indeed a wonderful community. Um,
it is.
a lot of great people, that take the craft of writing seriously. I absolutely love it. My schedule's a little nuts, and I'm not on there as much as I would like to be, but I've never gone to Fictionary's community and left sad. I've always left feeling wonderful because it's such a great interaction with so many different people. I love it.
I'm with you on that. I'm so glad that I found it where
Yeah,
kindness reigns and it permeates everything that they offer. It affects all of the members, and that positivity just rubs off.
it
And
does.
I've never found myself so supported and encouraged, even if you're just having like a general rant about, oh, I can't figure this out. You've got people that will write back to you and give you ideas that offer support or uh, shoulder to cry on. They'll send therapeutic ice cream, all kinds of things. So it is a great place to be. I highly encourage any author at any stage in their career to give it a try.
I need to get on there later and put in an order for some pistachio ice cream. That sounds good. Well, I think we'll hop into a couple of questions and, just further enlighten the audience a little bit about who you are. And so the first question is very simple, very basic, but it's always interesting. Do you consider yourself to be a pantser or a plotter, and why?
Cancer all the way.
Hmm.
And nobody is more surprised by this than I am because I am the most organized person you ever want to meet in my day-to-day life. And happiness for me is a well laid out calendar. And when it comes to the writing piece, I don't know where I'm going. I go where the characters take me. And sometimes they have very strong opinions about where they're going to go. And it'll be like a left turn out of nowhere. I say, okay, well, I'm going to go where they want me to. So that
Yeah.
also means that I'm diving for either the notes app on my phone or dictating a note. So I have a shower notes thing where it's waterproof notes and a pencil in the shower because I don't know why good ideas come in the shower. But that's what I do. And I fly by the seat of my pants, and it just all sort of jumbled around in there. And it's just in direct opposition to how I like the rest of my life laid out. So I've just embraced the flying by the seat of your pants bit.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm a pantser too, and I don't think I'd enjoy writing if I had to follow some sort of path. I like just letting the characters take off and see where they go. All right, so I'm with you on that pantser.
And I know some people who love it and they thrive on it. And I have given it a try where doing character sketches and trying an outline, and it didn't do it for me. It felt like it was stifling my creativity some.
Mhm.
So if it's your thing, go for it and enjoy it. But I just gotta, I'm along for the ride. I feel like I'm just interpreting what the characters want me to do.
Okay, our next question, next couple questions. I realize that you've written a romance novel, but you have approached it with such a unique angle and a unique perspective. I don't believe I've even heard of a novel that ventured there. So the next two questions I have to ask you are because, wow, I mean, that you even came up with the idea is just absolutely brilliant. And I can't wait to hear a little more about it. So I'm going
Thank
to
you.
check my notes here because, well, I'm getting old. So I wanted to ask, what inspired creating a kingdom in your story that has none of the American history and the biases that we have current day that kind of mold the psyche of Black people in our society? What inspired you to create this kingdom?
Well, I would also venture to say that this has molded everyone's sensibilities since they are the ones that are born here, raised here.
Mhm.
And honestly, it was having gone through cancer because I saw firsthand that Black women statistically have the poorest outcomes when it comes to cancer, specifically breast cancer.
Oh,
So I had a charmed experience that everything went right for me that could possibly have gone right. And I'm very thankful for that. But I'm also very conscious that a lot of the people that were in the fight right next to me didn't make it.
oh.
And we know that health disparities exist. And we know that institutionalized racism affects people on a genetic level with generational trauma. And I said, I don't want any of that. I didn't want that to be a background or a soundtrack to this wonderful love story that I have written.
Mhm.
And as a Black woman in America, I can't get away from
Mhm.
race. I can't get away from intersectionality of other ways that I am in the minority. So I said, where would someplace be that had never been colonized, that didn't have that whole imperial system, and what would that be like? And I said, okay, well, let's do. I said, I don't know a whole lot about how an independent nation will work, so I was making it up as I was going.
Uh-huh.
But I said, I'm going to do a small island nation, and I'm going to have queen who is elected, which is a whole other conceit that I have.
Mhm.
And I juxtapose that to, since our Light-Twin queen is falling in love with an American architect, so there are lots of questions and explaining that go into their courtship and how to understand one another.
Yeah.
And having understanding that other countries teach about American history in ways that are probably very different from the ways they are taught here.
Mhm.
And having them talk about that and understand that, yes, it does affect more than blatant things. It's not just somebody calling you a slur, that we're talking about things like redlining. And we could go down this rabbit hole, but I didn't want to. I said I wanted to have some place where that was just not an issue. And it made me think of Wakanda, where there was so much positivity in looking around and seeing everyone who looks like you. And this is very similar to my experience going to a historically Black college and university, that I'd been an outcast my whole school career until I stepped onto a college campus and everybody looked like me, had been through everything that I had. And it was like Shangri-La for me.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I wanted. So we've got a highly educated populace. They're, I don't want to give too much away about what it's like on Laitua, but it's definitely someplace that you might want to go if it were real and to spend some real time. And none of those biases are there. And that does color the relationship a little bit because as somebody trying to get into uh, understanding what the person they're falling in love with, where they are coming from, it can be challenging when you haven't lived that experience
Yeah.
to try and get in their shoes and see how that might have affected them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally can relate far more than you realize. I'm not going to go on a big long rant, but my grandmother was a full-blooded Cherokee,
Mhm.
and I was in a house fire at 3 months old and got scars on my face. So I was basically born different. And, I'm not Hispanic and I'm not black, of course, but I am different. And I comment often that worldwide, I think humanity is still in its childhood, and it's horrible how just simply being different in some way can have you abused, mistreated, departmentalized. Just so many horrible things can happen, and so many opportunities can be taken away simply because you're a woman, or you're black, or you got some scars, or, go on and on and on. So I said I wouldn't rant. I'm going to try not to, but I'm going to try to say that as much as I can, being some guy from Kentucky, I can truly understand where you're coming from. I feel it, and some of my own history, I had my hurts too, so I can relate a little bit.
Yeah.
uh, I used to
I
get
wish you
jumped.
couldn't.
Yeah, when I was a kid, it was an everyday thing to get jumped by a group of guys who just thought I
Ugh,
was different.
as though that's
Yeah,
threatening to them somehow.
yeah, so I have a small understanding. It's sort of like I've had a couple of friends that were real Vietnam vets, really were there. They didn't want to talk about it much. I have no idea what it would be like, but I know what it's like to fight for your life in a dark alley. And, a fight for the life, a fight to the death. It doesn't matter if it's in a front yard or another country, it's still to the death. And unfortunately, worldwide, so many people, just because their skin's a little darker, that's all it takes. And they're victimized daily.
Or because of who you love.
It's horrible.
And yeah,
And I apologize. I did say I wouldn't rant. I'm going to stop myself. I'm a chatterbox. But I want you to know, I salute taking that angle on your book then and trying to say, hey, it doesn't have to be the way it used to be. It ain't 1960 anymore. We can make things different. Let's start right here.
yes,
Read this book, and believe it
yes.
or not, that can make a big difference.
Even just imagine a world where this was not in the background of your foundational years, that
Yeah.
all you've seen is prosperous people who look like you. And like any nation, Laitua faces its own issues, and those are addressed to some extent, not so much in this book because it takes place in Washington, D.C.,
Mhm.
but that it's just a different mindset, a different pride that I think you would feel in your homeland when your homeland has always been yours.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I've got to ask, you've got I've only seen the blurb. I haven't read your book yet. I intend to, though. I don't read a lot of romance, but every once in a while, one of them will jump on my TBR. And I've got to admit, I write horror, thriller, fantasy, and sometimes I love a good romance.
Who among us does not love a good love story?
Yeah. So I've got to ask, you've got Cara Theron, is that right?
Yes,
And Joshua Riddick.
yes.
And Joshua's from America.
Mhm.
Cara, unknown to Joshua, is a queen in this island nation. So I'm curious, as they get to know each other, and, let's say they go out to dinner and things around them, their environment and their personal feelings, because Joshua grew up in our country, how does that work? I mean, how do they see things surely differently on some level? Maybe you can enlighten us a little bit about that, because that's an interesting, the whole idea is just mind blowing. It's pretty cool.
Oh, thank you. So it's I think doing just a twist on the fish out of water tale. And Joshua, who goes by Riddick, has had his own knocks in life from an early age and worked very hard to overcome his past. So I'm going to quote Cory Booker here with, you should never be standing over somebody unless you're giving them a hand up. And this is very much what Riddick lives by. And he sees a kindred spirit in Kara, even when he thinks that she is the queen's assistant, that she has a heart for service and that she wants everyone to be doing well together instead of maybe just the top tier of society having everything like the one percenters. That having that chance to talk, he's a prosperous business owner. She, in unbeknownst to him, is running a country, but he sees her as being a very competent and someone that the queen cannot live without. But he does think that the queen is undervaluing her, which is pretty funny. I think that's part of the communication piece that I feel is so important. I have a background in social work. And so I'm always looking to, are people listening, really truly listening to what someone is saying, not just the words, but we're talking about the nonverbals. And Kara, as a diplomat, is an expert in picking up on these nonverbals and being able to, I think at one point I said she wields silence like a surgeon wields a scalpel. And that's a skill, to be able to let a moment breathe. And that's something that Riddick is not used to. And not that he's been self-absorbed or anything, it's just a different way of interacting. And that's part of what marks their courtship, is that they're doing things that are a little bit more cerebral as they're talking about the differences in their background, what it might look like if things were different. And in fact, one of their dates, they go to the African American Museum that's here in Washington, D.C. It is a life-changing experience. And they go to this museum, and Kara, who did not grow up with the history and legacy of American enslavement, is broken down by this museum, as I was. That it is, I encourage everyone, if you ever have a chance, it is a life-changing experience. And shifting your perspective, which sometimes folks find very difficult, especially in a romantic relationship. Sometimes they just want to sort of steamroll over somebody and have it their way. But it takes real care. And I think it's a skill that can be developed, to really listen to what someone's saying and truly compromise. Because you can always say, oh, let's do what you want to do. Is that really valuing what the other person wants, or is it just sort of giving lip service? So having that unfold, and as they become more intimate in their friendship, in their courtship, and I'm not even talking about physically, I'm just talking about that vulnerability that you expose when you're into somebody and I'm getting ready to celebrate my 20th wedding anniversary in a week. And so I'm feeling a little mushy. But that takes bravery to be able to make yourself that vulnerable. And that's something that they both have.
Yeah, it sounds wonderful. And I'm not going to dwell real long, but I do want to put this in there because a little bit of feedback from the world on your novel. And it's just this little corner of Kentucky, but it's still feedback. I live in a little town, and I'm not an expert of anything. I can't give you accurate statistics, but just looking out my window and taking a good run at it, I'll say 75% of my town is black. 95% of my town is well below the poverty level. And that includes me. That's why we're using a free version of Zoom that's going to black out. But one thing I love about the concept of your book is it shows, even though he has the American past, you know, you're depicting a successful, well-educated, intelligent black man. And it's so wonderful to tell the world, yeah, they exist. You might have to work really hard to get there, but you can do it. And I love that you're sending out that message, because there's a lot of fellas in my town that they would love to hear that message, you know. And I'm
Yes.
just going to encourage them to read your book.
Oh, thank you. And it's not a white whale. It's something that is more common than people realize.
Mhm.
And with my own wonderful husband, who is setting an example for our wonderful children, okay, they're teens, so they're wonderful and
And horrible.
trying my patience. Yes, they try the patience of a saint. Uh, but getting that message out there, yes, that okay, so the media is having a love affair with painting black men as villains, as deadbeats, and we could go on and on. And to counteract that narrative, we've got to put the good stuff out there. We've got to be singing the praises of folks that are doing what we hope to see. What are we teaching our next generation? Are we modeling for them what it can be, what it should be? And actually, Riddick, who has had a childhood that involved foster care, is involved in foster care services, because part of being in an underserved community, I feel like you have a responsibility to give back in a way that helps to elevate as much as possible. Knowledge is free. This is not a competition. There's enough for everybody. It's not pie. That there's enough for everyone. And I just want to spread the good news with that, hey, black on black love is a thing. And wonderful black men are out there with all the great attributes that Riddick has. And to say that my husband lives in the heart of every hero that I have. And that's sort of the book boyfriend that everybody wants, who's just got all the attributes. So yes, yeah, they're out there.
The whole concept of your book. I mean, I hope the romance is pretty intense and good. You know, who wants a Harlequin? I'm sorry, I don't like them. You know, but if it's real, it's got real emotion. It can move me. Oh yeah, I'm into it.
Well, that's what I hope I've
It's really
created.
cool though that you got. I'm not really sure what the terminology is, but a sub story of the success of Riddick, and you know, a little reminder about the American history and the overall theme that that can be overcome, and
Yes.
we can live a different way, just as Kara does. You know, and I love that you have that in there, even though it's a romance story, and it's pretty cool. I don't know how to pull it off, but it's pretty cool. So I've got
Thank
to ask
you.
you, what was the hardest scene you wrote? What was tough?
Well, what was tough was trying to figure out how a car could pull off this ruse. In this day and age with social media, everybody's got a computer in their back pocket. How could I make this believable to where it doesn't make Riddick look foolish? Um, so I had a very hard time trying to figure out what I was going to do with this, and I ended up writing around it because I just couldn't figure it out for a little while. And then I finally got it. And then I wrote like this wonderful, funny scene where she's almost discovered and they have a fight on their first date at the very beginning because of preconceived notions. And trying to find that right balance between, okay, there's this panic that she's feeling that, oh, it's about to be over before it starts, but I've got to stand up for myself. And then, well, I've got to stand up for my employer, who's really me. And that dichotomy of trying to keep positive. Riddick doesn't like the queen. So she's really worried that she's painting a bad picture, that he doesn't like the queen, who's really her, and round and round. So making, I won't give it away for how I pulled it together, but I think I did it in a way that was funny and cute. And when he finds out, because the truth will always come out,
Yeah.
when he finds out that he's sort of like, oh, I can't believe I fell for that.
Yeah, because
So there's
every
some,
man has that pride that's very fragile. you know.
And I tried to deal with that in a way that, like I said, doesn't make him seem foolish, but anybody can fall for something, especially if it's presented well enough and you're motivated to believe it. So yes, that was challenging.
Now, without giving away any spoilers, what was a fun scene you read? Something you had a ball writing.
Oh, their first meeting.
Mhm.
I did a twist on the Nigerian prince scam that had him hanging up on her on the phone when she's contacting him. And it was just so funny to me how the Nigerian prince scheme was just reeling people in, and people just kept falling for it. So I had a really fun time setting the stage for that so that by the time they meet, that he's dismissive because he thinks she's got a phony accent and she's trying to fleece him.
Oh.
So getting that right was just a lot. It was so much fun. I had myself laughing while I was writing it, and hopefully it has the same effect on other people.
Well, I'm really looking forward to reading it. I think it's going to be wonderful, and I will certainly put links down in the description. If you give us your website, and then I'll also definitely put a link to your book in the description. And I'll share this video across my platform and with everyone that I can find that is willing to share it. Let the world know about it because, again, I mean, I don't know everything. I'm just me. But you hear a romance story every day, but a deep, real, like in your heart romance story, well, that's kind of rare, you know? And I'm
Yes.
looking forward to it. I really am. So
Oh, thank you.
I like to give every guest an opportunity to speak directly to the audience, and you can share anything you like. I don't censor. Feel free to talk about your website or upcoming events or anything you like.
Thank you. So, treasured reader, I am out here working hard. I'm not a full-time author, so I have a very different relationship with what I write than if I, bet the farm. Uh, but my website is www.nikkidavenport.com. I have a newsletter that I would love to have you sign up with. I probably overshare in it, but uh, connecting with folks, it's all about connection and communication. And I have the book up for pre-order. That's International Incident. It will be released on November 4th. And I also have a short story that's set in the same universe called A Matter of Taste. That's part of an anthology that's to support a woman with breast cancer who did not have health insurance. She's doing fine now, which is great, but she's left with these medical bills. And that will be available on October 1st, just in time for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I'm doing my best to get the word out there. If you like the book, please leave a review. Send me an email or something and let me know that you did like it, or if there's a typo or something. I want this to be interactive. So writing can be solitary, which is one of the reasons why Fictionary is so great. So hope you'll come and join me. Follow me on social media. Davenport Nikki on Instagram and TikTok, and on Facebook you can find me with Nikki Davenport Author. And thank you so much for having me.
Very well done. But I understand you've done quite a few interviews, huh?
No, this is just my third.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
This is my 25th episode of Relax and Chat,
Oh, wow.
and I'm still stumbling around like a fool.
Yeah, you're human. I do not trust anything that is completely smooth all the way through. You're like, oh no, that's not real life.
Well, I'm smart enough to realize people come to see the show because of the stars that are the guests. You know, if I stay out of the way enough, I have a great show.
Well, you're a great host and you put folks at ease, and that is so helpful. I was so nervous coming on here, and I was sending a note to my 16-year-old. I was like, okay, I'm recording an interview. If you happen to come home during this time, just come in quietly. And I sent my husband on out of here. So
Oh.
I did my best to create this little corner of the world where I'm surprised. Usually the cats, when they hear me on a call, It's like I rang the dinner bell or something. They're usually up here with their tail going back and forth like Jaws, but they decided to leave me alone this time.
Well, I think I mentioned that, uh, well, I'm a writer that, believe it or not, I'm not wealthy. Using Zoom, love the program. It's exceptional for doing interviews. But on the free version, it'll black out completely. And I would never just hang up like that. That's not me. So to avoid that, I guess we ought to go ahead and wrap it up. But oh, what a pleasure to speak with you. And again, I don't think I've ever heard of a novel like the one you've written. And that's got to do you pretty good when the word gets out and, people start leaving reviews and, oh, I think you're going to do very well with that wonderful book. I can't wait to read it.
Thank
Oh,
you.
I'm so eager.
Oh,
And
that makes me so happy.
even more so since we had this conversation. Now I'm really hungry to read it.
Okay, we'll have to talk after you have a chance to read it.
All right. Well, I guess for now we should say farewell and I wish you all the best. Please keep doing what you're doing because you're doing it
Thank
right.
you. Thank you so much, Rod.
All righty. Well, audience, I hope you've enjoyed this show. Please remember there's a link to Nikki's website. There's a link to her novel. And if I can find it, I'll put a link to that Cancer Society that you were speaking about. Because that's a worthy cause too. That's pretty amazing. They're doing a lot with that nowadays. Maybe not that enough, but they are making a lot of progress. So hopefully we can add that to the video too.
Happy to.
All right. Well, say bye-bye, audience.
Goodbye, audience. Thank you.
So long, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you for watching our 25th episode of Relax and Chat. I hope you enjoyed the show.